But in the experience, he suffered, and he let God know he was suffering. How about the Psalms? The Psalms say you may do that. If you're depressed, you can say what the psalmist did in the 77th Psalm. If you soak your bed with your tears at night because God isn't talking to you, you can say so. You can put it in a prayer, you can write it in a book in the Bible. That God invites us to express our feelings. And God says, I'm not offended by your crying like this. Evidently, we really were friends. If we were only casual acquaintances, it wouldn't upset you that I'm not talking to you. But we had talked together so many years, the way Abraham and I talked, and Moses and I talked, that this period when I have not talked, you have been in a terrible state of distress. Thank you, Job. I am deeply complimented. It's just the other way around. But you see, many people who don't know God and worship him and obey him from fear wouldn't dare talk to God like this. And thus they deprive themselves of the freedom of talking to him, expressing one's mind as the psalmists do under inspiration. Job would never have dared do what he did unless he'd known God very well, because he acknowledged his power. And if he thought God was a fearsome deity, he wouldn't have dared say what he did. He really did know God. He said, if I could only get in touch with God and we could talk it over, I know God could make sense out of this thing. I know he would. I don't know whether he knows what was written in the last chapter. So, he has to wait for the hereafter. And I could imagine him arising from his grave, and I should think the first thing he'd want to know is, what was all that about? And he'd go to the Lord, and the Lord will say, well, we were having a discussion up here about you. And when Job hears the whole story that we've just reread, do you think he'd be offended? A student one day said, I don't like the way God uses people like pawns in a chess game. And another student answered up and said, well, if God can use me as a pawn to checkmate the devil, I'd feel very honored. I thought that was a very clever answer. I'll not forget that one in a hurry. You see, then you're honored. Poor Jeremiah, look what he went through, and Ezekiel and some of the others. But they were honored. And if we can survive the time of trouble and bear a true and persuasive witness to the truth about our God under such difficult circumstances, then we would hear the same words. And that would be a remarkable time.